Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to bring you all of the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. This podcast is available in audio format from wherever you cast your pods and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today.
We have 6 updates for you today, so a bit of a light show, but Adam has told me that the last 2 updates are enormous, so we're going to do our best to keep them brief. There's updates to Groups, Google Chat, Google Workspace, and drumroll, Google Chat. So it's quite chat heavy this week, isn't it, Adam? As always, there is a link in the podcast or video description to the document that we read from. This contains more detailed information, relevant links, some lovely pictures, and even some moving graphics showing you these features in action. So, let's get to it.
On with the show. Right, so this week, there's no update alerts.
Unusual.
So it's all just actual updates. I don't think we've had that possibly ever. There's always little update alerts, but not today. So the very first update we have is all to do with groups. So you can now create, modify and insert email templates within groups messages. So when you're using groups to send messages, you can save a composed message as a template to reuse in the future. So allegedly, Google knows that users rely heavily on sending messages from groups. No, they don't. I've never ever known anyone to send a message through groups. Maybe they actually do, but I thought everyone either uses just Gmail or Google Chat. But apparently sending messages through groups is an option that, according to Google, users rely heavily on. And when doing so, often those messages closely resemble one another and only specific information requires updating. So now, instead of typing the same message from scratch, you compose and save your reply as a template, saving you time and accelerating your workflow.
Okay, so this is talking about actually making emails in the groups area, so like groups.google.com.
Yeah, literally, if you go to the groups area and you can see your different groups, there is the option to send a message directly from that interface. So it's not sending an email to a group through Gmail or sending a message to a group through Google Chat. You can do it all directly within groups.
I've never done that.
Users use it all the time, Adam.
I've never done that. I think I vaguely knew that you could do that. I think now that you mention it, I think I probably remember seeing the option at one point. Yeah, users rely heavily on sending messages from groups. I agree with you, Adam. I'm not too sure that they do, but hey, Google have their data, so obviously we're in the minority. Again, it's like we said before, it's another one of those updates that's probably really relevant for the big organisations and sort of much larger than anything that we're doing.
I'm sure there are organisations out there and they're just like, what are you on about, Adam? We message people through groups all the time. We live for it.
Well, do you know what? If you are one of those organisations or you're an admin of one of those organisations, great. You're going to be able to use some templates now. There's a very nice graphic here showing how this works. Very straightforward. You kind of compose your message, you click a button, it just says save as template. So that's nice to see. I think they've given some examples here, but I don't think we really need to go through examples. People understand what templates are for and sending groups. What's the getting started here? Because I'm interested in kind of how you recall these templates. I don't know whether it talks about that at all.
Okay, so getting started for the admins, there is actually no admin control for the feature, but for the end user, you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about using email templates in groups. So it does kind of seem to be, it is an email template that you send through groups. So I think you could probably achieve the same thing by go just directly within Gmail, but this particular method, it is talking about sending your template directly through groups. And note on that templates are specific to individual users and are not shared across other group owners, managers, or members.
Okay, so that is an important point to note there, that you can't really sort of share them, which is a bit of a shame if anybody's wanting to use this. I think now that I look back at the graphic, I can see that when you click on that same option, that same area to save the template, it does say insert template. So I guess that's how you recall them. You kind of save them in that area, and you can recall them from that area as well. I wonder how you manage them. I wonder how you like delete. Oh, it does say delete template, so maybe you can recall it and then delete it if you want to get rid of it.
And I'm also a little bit curious because it is essentially an email that you're sending, just not directly in Gmail. You're sending it through groups. That I imagine if you then did open up Gmail and went to say your sent messages or sent emails, the whatever message that you sent probably would appear there just as a regular email.
Yeah, it's interesting whether it would or it wouldn't, because it's quite interesting how it doesn't really say send email, or like it's got the send. It says post message, which is often a thing that they do in groups where it's kind of all about posting, like posting these messages as if you're doing it on a forum or something when you're not.
But it does mention email templates.
I know.
So it is a little bit...
This is where the terminology in groups, to me, doesn't make much sense, because when you go into edit group settings, like security settings, it says things like people can post messages. What that means is people can send emails to the group, but they say it's like post messages, like I say, as if you're on some sort of forum or something, but you're not. It's all about emails. So here's an interesting point you bring up. There's something I wanted to touch on just here that you mentioned earlier about being in sent messages of email, Adam, which is a feature that's completely lacking in Gmail. And Google, AI bot that's obviously listening, here's an idea for you as a future update. You can't go into your sent items in Gmail and recall a message and say send again. It's such a useful feature that's in Mac Mail but doesn't exist in Gmail. Or I've never found it. Anyway, I've never seen it. You can forward it, but you can't send it again. You can like open the message and you can copy and paste it and things like that. But you can do it in Mac Mail, and you can do it in Outlook as far as I know. You can just select the message in the sent items and say send again, and it basically brings it up. I love it. I find it super useful, kind of in the same way that they're saying about his templates. I use it as a bit of a template thing, because I'll often be sending messages to 20 people, but I don't want to send them to 20 people all at once. And equally, I don't want to BCC them in either. I do want to just send it individually to each person, but it's the same message effectively. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. That is an interesting thought. So sort it out, Google.
Yeah, exactly. But this update's nice, for anybody who's sending emails in groups. Not something that we do, but that is a nice feature to see. Anyway, let's move on. This is available now and to everybody, right, Adam?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Okay, and what's the next update, please?
Next update, the first of many, is a Google Chat update. So there's additional Space Manager capabilities within Google Chat. So Google is adding 2 new controls to the list of Space Manager capabilities in Google Chat that were introduced earlier this year to ensure effective conversations take place in spaces. The new Manager apps and Manage Webhooks options will now allow Space Managers to control the ability of Space members to add and remove apps and webhooks to a space. Google is also making improvements to enhance the overall experience of spaces within Chat. So there's an updated @mentions dialog notification that explains why a specific user or an app cannot be added to that space. There's a little graphic that we have that is basically greyed out that says that that is restricted, that is prohibited, you're not able to do that. There's also a new full screen view on the web that shows Space Managers all installed apps and webhooks within a space. I think that is actually going to be very, very handy, because then literally just at a glance you can see all the apps that have been installed. But that did also make me think. I thought that the different apps that you installed were more user apps that you have whenever you're using Google Chat, even if you go into a space or that you can use anywhere within Google Chat. But this almost implies that somebody can install, a manager can push out different apps that are available to everybody within the space.
I guess they are, otherwise you wouldn't be able to interact with them when you're in the space. Maybe when you go within the space, the app is just kind of installed already within that space by whoever the space manager is, or something like that.
So for example, if I installed Giphy through my own Google Chat and I went to send you a message, you wouldn't need to have Giphy also installed on your Google Chat in order to receive the GIF that I would then send with Giphy.
No.
However, if you wanted to interact with it and send your own Giphy back, then yes, you would.
Yeah, and maybe if I went into a space where you'd installed that, it would kind of become an option. It's an interesting point. Again, it's not something that we've tested extensively, but it is an interesting point as to how that works. I really like the fact that they've added in a bit of an explanation as to why certain things can't happen. Like it says, it's got here in the example graphic, sorry, you can't install this app because app installation is limited in this space. It's always good to provide users a reason as to why this thing happens, because purely from a selfish reason, it helps cut down on support cases. It helps cut down on the frontline support of getting those support requests in where people are asking why that can't be done or what the problem is. So I really like the fact that they've added that and having more controls. I agree with what you said, Adam, just being able to see all of those apps that are installed in space in one place. It's really useful for admins, and having these extra controls is very, very useful. So what's the sort of getting started here?
Okay, so for the admins, once again, there's no admin control for the feature. However, you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about optimizing chat spaces for your organization. Link in our document. For their end users, you can go to the space menu, select space settings, then configure space settings and modify permissions as required. The end users can also visit Google's Help Center if they'd like to learn more about managing your space settings and your role as a space manager. Links in the document.
That's great. That's really useful for people to know. Thanks, Adam. What's the rollout pace here and availability?
So rapid release and scheduled release, there is a gradual rollout for this update, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on September the 26th. And this update is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers.
Great. That's good to hear right across the board there. Thank you, Adam. What's the next update that we got, please? Could be a chat one, couldn't it?
Up next, Google Chat. So you can now easily link to a specific message within Google Chat. So building upon the recent updates in Google Chat, such as message views, inline replies, and larger spaces, Google are introducing message linking, which is an additional feature that helps teams collaborate more effectively. To generate links to messages easier so that others can reference a particular topic or announcement, Google have added a copy link option for all messages posted in Spaces, group messages, and direct messages. Once the link is sent and clicked by colleagues, they will be taken to the original message within chat as long as they have access to the conversation or space.
This is really cool. I really, really like this. Very nice update. Not something we would probably particularly use, but this is just really, really nice. I think this could be very, very useful in certain situations when you're wanting to reference those particular chats, not wanting to focus on anything too serious, but, in a corporate environment where it would be very, very useful is if you have some kind of HR problem or you have HR related sort of things. It's often very, very important to reference in HR when you had a conversation with somebody, what was said, what time it was said, and wouldn't it be useful if you had a document where you could say, I said this to this person on Google Chat, here it is, here's the link to the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. So imagine for everyday use, you can just reply to a message and then it's just there straight away. However, that could quickly get lost as more and more people reply to other messages or just generally use the space. However, just as you said, if you're wanting to specifically reference back to something that was said, maybe that was a week ago, maybe that was a month ago, maybe however long ago that was, that could be really, really handy just to have or almost like a bookmark or type thing. Like you have your link that you can save in key situations. I can imagine this being very helpful.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice advancement. And the moving graphic here shows very easily how to access this, but I don't want to steal your thunder, Adam. So what's the getting started for this?
Okay, so for the admins, there is no admin control for this feature, once again, but for the end users to generate a link to a message, hover over the message, click the three-dot menu, select copy link. Then you paste the link within the conversation or space of your choice. However, users who don't have access to a specific space will receive an error message upon clicking the link to a message in a space they do not belong to. So that's a little bit as like if you clicked on a link to a Google document, document, but that document's not actually shared to you, you'll get an error message saying that you don't have permission to access that. Users can also visit Google's Help Center if they'd like to learn more about linking to a specific message, and there is a link for that in our document.
Thank you, Adam. What's the rollout pace and availability here, please?
So, rapid release, there is a gradual rollout, which started on September the 27th. Scheduled release, there is also a gradual rollout, which is starting on October the 11th.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And this is available to everybody again, right?
Yes, this is available to all Google Workspace customers and users with a personal Google account.
Fantastic. Thank you. What do we have next, please, Adam?
Up next, we have another Google Chat update for everybody. So you can now easily add or remove groups of members to a space in Google Chat. So Google are introducing a new app for Google Chat called Bulk Member Manager that enables space managers and space members who have permission to manage members to easily add or remove members to or from a space in bulk. In addition to the new membership search feature and the ability to add up to 50,000 members to spaces in Google Chat, this update will help you better organise people, topics, and projects to help ensure effective conversations take place in spaces.
Okay, this is a good update. I kind of thought that you could add groups to spaces already. I thought that was something you could already do, but I'm sure I saw that in an update. I remember that in an update on this podcast a while ago where you could add.
Yes, I think this is more about the Bulk Member Manager app that is now available within Google Chat.
Right, so
which sounds like it pretty much does the same thing, but it's the app within Google Chat.
So they're giving an example of how you can use that by saying that you can add groups and things like that, but this is now a actual sort of separate thing here. Okay, that makes sense. There's a bit of a graphic here, but I can't really see how to access this. So there's quite a bit on getting started in this, isn't there, Adam?
Yes, there is. Okay, so for the admins, admins can enable or disable users from adding chat apps to their spaces by going to the admin console, apps, Google Chat, Chat Apps, Access Settings. They can also visit Google's Help Center if they'd like to learn more about optimizing chat spaces for your organization. For the end users, all space managers can add members using the Bulk Member Manager app. A space manager can grant permission for a space member to add other members by going to the space menu, Space Settings, Access, selecting the All Members option under Who can manage members and groups. If this is granted, a space member can use the Bulk Member Manager app to add members. To use the Bulk Member Manager, open the space that you want to add or remove members to or from, then add the app to the space, then you need to type a command. And so a couple of examples of this, you have /add dialog to add some members by copying and pasting their email address. There's /remove dialog to remove members by copying and pasting an email address. There's /add CSV, so you can add members but via a CSV attachment. That could potentially be very handy. And there's also /remove CSV. Does exactly the same, but the other way around. And the end users can also visit Google's Help Center if they'd like to learn more about using the Bulk Member Manager app. And there is a link in our document for that. I think that link would definitely be worth checking out if anybody is interested in using this, just for a bit of clarification for their capabilities.
Yeah, that's very useful information for how to access that and how to use that. And it's presumably, because it does kind of gloss over a bit where it says, open the space that you want to manage and then add the app to the space. So I assume that's kind of in the @ command or something like that, or the plus, where you can add in apps as you would add in Giphy or something like that. I think it's the same.
It's very codey, because then instead of having to manually work your way around Google Chat to add or remove members, you can do it all essentially from commands directly within. So instead of typing, say, @ something or another, to use this one, you can just do a / and then remove somebody straight away.
Yeah, I realised that. It's just in the getting started, it does say add the app to the space, where there's like that link in the document. So I'm guessing you have to sort of add it in to enable it, is what I mean, before the commands work.
Yes. So this, so the Bulk Member Manager is an app within Google Chat, so it would be a bit like Giphy, however, probably a little bit more powerful than
Yeah.
Giphy. But
Yeah.
it is another app that you would have within Google Chat. So for the admins out there, particularly if they do not want anybody using this, if they have not previously blocked apps from being installed into Chat, because with something like this, maybe you do have a stronger preference that you do not want people to have access to an app like this.
Yeah, and there's the admin control as well, isn't there? For
Yes,
control? Yeah. So great. And what's the rollout and availability here, please?
Okay, so this feature is available right now for all Google Workspace customers, and it is available to all Google Workspace customers.
Okay, cool. Well, that's another one that's available across the board, so that's nice. I've got a lot of ones across the board. Now, the next update, there is a huge amount of information here, so I think Adam is going to summarise this as best he can, and I do encourage anybody interested in this to check out this information on the document. And I actually received an email about this as well, so anybody listening who's an admin or subscribed to those Google sort of alerts may have gotten an email about this, because this is quite a significant change, isn't it, Adam? So what have we got next?
Yes, okay, so the next phase of digital whiteboarding for Google Workspace. So in late 2024, Google will wind down the Jamboard whiteboarding app, as well as continue with a previously planned end of support for Google Jamboard devices. For those who are impacted by this change, Google are very committed to help you transition. So Google is integrating whiteboard tools such as FigJam, Lucid Spark and Miro across Google Workspace, so you can include them when collaborating in Meet, sharing content in Drive, or scheduling in Calendar. Further, Google is bringing these whiteboard solutions to the Series 1 Board 65 and Desk 27 devices by Avocor, so you can visually collaborate using a physical device and stylus. And Google will provide a retention and migration path for Jamboard data, so you don't lose any of the collaborative work that has been created within your organization. Admins of impacted Google Workspace customers will receive more detailed information and instructions via email.
Okay, well, this is interesting to hear. Without wanting to sort of sound overly negative, or cynical is probably a better word, I think probably what's happened here is Google's had a stab at Jamboard and it hasn't really worked out as they hoped it would. I don't think it's been as popular as they hoped or worked out quite as well as they hoped, and they've kind of just pulled the plug on it and said, let's just let other people who are better in the industry or more successful, shall we say, in the industry run with it. It makes sense. As a business, you don't just necessarily want to diversify into everything and just keep plugging everything if it isn't, not just if it isn't working, but if it isn't really something that suits your business particularly well. And I've never felt that Jamboard is an area that Google has really excelled in. I think that possibly they've made it a little bit too restrictive with it having to really have Jamboard hardware to work fully. And I think they probably took a bit of a risk of that, thinking that everybody would go and buy Jamboard hardware. But it just, I don't know what you found, Adam, but when you were thinking about replacing interactive whiteboards in the schools, we didn't jump to Jamboard. We didn't think of putting Jamboard in. And that's because our AV installers weren't looking at Jamboard or talking about Jamboard. So there must have been some kind of breakdown there with Google not really getting that out to partners effectively, I don't think.
Yeah, see, I must admit, I was actually really surprised when I saw this update come through.
Oh, I was
too. I thought Jamboard was actually quite popular. And okay, so none of my schools are actually using the Jamboard hardware, but I think they all use Jamboard. Even just last week, they were using it to collaborate on something. I think it was part of the ICT curriculum. All the students had to collaborate on something together, and they did all that through Jamboard.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not as popular potentially as the rest of Google Workspace, but my schools at least are still actively using it. So I was very surprised by this update.
Yeah, I was surprised too, despite what I've said. I mean, I'm more commenting on what I think Google's thought process was. But just like you, Adam, I was really surprised when I saw that email come through and it said, "Oh, by the way, we're winding down Jamboard." I thought, "Whoa, what?" I really thought Google was kind of behind Jamboard and wanting to promote it more. So, in a way, a shame to see. In a way, maybe these other sort of partners are going to do something a bit more exciting or something that's going to be a bit more aligned with what people will want. Now, like I said, listeners, there is a lot of information in the document here, and we're going to do our best to kind of condense this down a little bit. So what's going to happen is Adam's going to give you a very brief rundown of kind of what the other options are. We're just going to say, really refer to the document, and then just a very brief sort of rundown of the timeline here. We're going to give you the best that we can to give you the key points on the timeline. So over to you, Adam.
Okay, so for anybody that is using a Jamboard device, all Jamboard device license subscriptions will end on September the 30th. I was thinking, oh my god, that's tomorrow or a couple of days after this podcast come out. September the 30th, 2024.
Okay, so no one panic.
So everyone will have about a year of their current licenses that are available. If you need to back up any Jamboard devices, then you are able to do so from the admin console. And please do so way before September 30th, 2024, because after that date, then your data could be lost if you have not backed that up. From October the 1st, 2024, the 55-inch Jamboard device will reach its auto-update expiration and will no longer receive any security updates. So anyone that is looking to upgrade their device can look to Google Meet Series 1 Board 65 or Desk 27, which are devices by Avocor, and both devices will have integrations with Google's partners' whiteboarding software to replace the Jamboarding app. So that's quite cool. For anyone using the Jamboard app, so starting October the 1st, 2024, you'll no longer be able to create new or edit existing jams on any platform, including the web, iOS and Android. Between October the 1st, 2024 and December the 31st, 2024, the app will be placed in view-only mode. So during which time you'll still be able to back up your jam files. From December 31st, 2024, Google will wind down the Jamboard application, meaning your users will no longer be able to access their jam files, and jam files will be permanently deleted.
Oh, okay. So they're actually going to delete stuff. So that's good for people to know, just in case they need to back that stuff up.
It does actually mention here, although no specifics are actually given, it does say here, Google will also work directly with educational institutions to compensate them for their Jamboard devices. So if any schools out there have spent some real money on their Jamboard devices, it does sound as if there's going to be some options available for you. What those options are, I have absolutely no idea, or to be honest, even where you would go to find out. Potentially you'd receive some communication from Google, or maybe they'll send something out in due time. But it does say that educational institutions will be compensated.
That's very good to hear. I encourage anybody in this situation who is facing that to go and look at the document, because there's a few that are mentioned here, like FigJam by Figma, Lucid Spark by Lucid Software, and Miro as well. So I would guess, Adam, that they would probably contact those people, and hopefully they're going to know what's going on, and there's going to be some kind of pathway set up for people.
I wonder if they'll have some kind of trade-in type thing going on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, getting started here, it's more information on what people can do, isn't it? And the availability as well, which again is Jamboard people, I guess.
So for the admins out there, there is a link to Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about Jamboard end-of-life information. So if you are using Jamboard, specifically if you do have their hardware, strongly recommend that you come and check that out. For the end users out there, you can keep your jam files in Google Drive by saving them as PDFs, and I've added a link within our document for anybody that would like to learn how to do that.
And like you said, this impacts everybody with a Jamboard app or 55-inch screen. Anybody who's kind of in that Jamboard camp is really who it affects, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Great. What's the last update that we've got, Adam? It could be Google Chat, couldn't it?
So, yes, we have another Google Chat for everybody. So, So there's now updates regarding the transition from spaces organised by topic to inline threading in Google Chat. I think we touched on this, well, we've definitely touched on this several times, but I think there was an update to the update some time ago that said Google was going to release more information about the timeline for all of the transitions to inline threading, and here we go. So in 2022, Google introduced inline threading for Google Chat, and since March 2023, all newly created spaces in Google Chat are inline threaded by default. On September the 30th, 2023, so a couple of days before this podcast actually comes out, Google will begin taking the next steps towards a single streamlined flow of conversation in Google Chat. All existing spaces organised by conversation topic will be upgraded to the inline threaded experience, and Google would like to share more information regarding the migration, what to expect, as well as what's next for Google Chat. So, beginning September 30th, 2023, Google will begin upgrading conversations grouped by topic to inline threading, and they anticipate this change to be completed by March 2024. So it's going to be a bit of a slow transition in order for them to complete it. In order to minimize disruptions on day-to-day work, Google will do their best to initiate upgrades during off-peak times on weekends. Should you be using chat during these upgrades, spaces that are being affected will be inaccessible for a couple of minutes, and admins can complete a form to specify this specific month and whether they'd prefer to upgrade to take place on weekdays or weekends. But please note this will be on a best effort basis, and the form must be submitted by October the 15th, 2023. So you're going to have a couple of weeks to fill in a form. I've added a link to that form where you can put your preference forward for when you would like the transition to occur. However, it does say that if you're actually using a particular space at the time of the transition, it should only be a couple of minutes when it does go offline. So it will probably be the case of by the time you realise what's going on and you've checked your internet connection, you've restarted your browser, then it probably would have finished anyway. So I hopefully it won't interfere with anybody too much. Based on the preference selected by a customer, Google will choose one of the upgrade windows on a weekday or weekend in the selected month and upgrade all the eligible spaces during off-peak hours. Prior to the upgrade, a minimum of 2 weeks prior to the upgrades taking place, a banner will be displayed on impacted spaces notifying users about the impending change, and users will be able to click through to Google's Help Center if they'd like to learn more. So that's really, really helpful that there will just be that visual reminder going on. So if you're using a space and you see this banner pop up, then you know within 2 weeks or so, then your space is about to receive the upgrade. Google plans to execute the changes during off-peak times to help minimize disruption. If you're using an impacted space when the upgrade commences, most functions, such as sending and receiving messages, will be inaccessible. Typically, this will only last for a few minutes, after which users simply need to refresh the browser tab to access and use the newly upgraded space. Other direct messages, group conversations, and inline threaded spaces will not be impacted and will remain accessible during the upgrade. Once the upgrade is complete, the space will use the inline threaded model. Messages sent before the upgrade will be retained and will be arranged chronologically instead of by topic. There will also be a separator titled Begin New Topic to indicate every time a new topic was started. In some cases, when people have responded to older topics, the new chronological order takes precedence. This means that messages may not appear next to the original topic, but rather according to their timestamp. When this occurs, the new response will quote the last corresponding message that it is replying to, and there is an example image in our document. You'll also see there's quite a few example images, don't worry. You'll also see a separator between the last message sent before the migration and a message indicating that the space has been upgraded to a space with inline replies. Going forward, all new messages will feature inline threaded functionality.
Great. Okay, no problem. That's really, really good. I mean, there's a lot of information in there for people to take away, and I encourage them to have a look at the document. Like Adam said, there's some really nice pictures in there, and there's some moving graphics and everything like that. Thank you, Adam, for getting through all of that information, because there is a lot in there. There's some other bits in here. Did we need to go over those, or should we just leave those?
Yes, just quickly, because these are new features. So everything else was just more of a recap about information about the migration to the new inline threaded experience. But after this update, at some point between now and March, there's also going to be a couple of new features available. And the first one is you'll now be able to easily resize the threads sidebar to best suit your screen size or increase focus on threads that are most important to you. So there's a lovely moving graphic that demonstrates this perfectly. So essentially, as we've kind of mentioned before, that with the inline threaded experience, when people have replied to other messages, there'll be different columns to group the conversations together, and there's now a sidebar that you can adjust the width of those columns to your own preference. So I'm sure that is particularly handy, especially as they mentioned, depending on the size of the screen or device that you're on. There's also going to be a home shortcut. So home is the place to manage and catch up on your chat messages. Messages from your followed threads will be shown in home, and you can also filter to only see your followed threads and unread conversations. You'll be able to open a conversation or reply from the home view. You can choose to get notified for all messages and automatically follow all threads within a space, ensuring you don't miss any updates. You'll also be able to see avatars of users that have replies to a thread to get better context and decide whether the thread is relevant to you.
Our last one is really nice. I mean, there's a graphic in here showing what that looks like with the little sort of profile pictures popping up at the bottom of the message. So that one's very nice as an example, and I think that would be quite useful. I think all of these are
I actually thought that last one was the least exciting one.
No, I think that's pretty cool, because it's useful sometimes when you've got a message in a space to know who's seen it, and where it's all up to. But I was just going to say that I think all of these are quite useful, depending on, like you said, the size of your organisation and stuff. You know, if you're a big organisation, the home area is going to be really useful. Resizing a panel is very useful. So yeah, I think, you know, like I said, being able to see who's read your message when it's there is quite useful.
Thinking about it, I just thought of an example where I think that probably would be very helpful, actually. So Google alluded to some time ago that there would be additional spaces, almost more community spaces. So it's not just those that are your colleagues that you work with or friends that you know directly. It could be a community one. And if there's a load of members in there, then you can actually see who is or is not directly replying to various messages to essentially see how active certain users are within the space.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you can also see the participants as they sort of appear there through the messages, like you say. So yeah, that's very good. What's the getting started on this, please, Adam, and availability?
Okay, so for the admins, if you want to request the upgrade to a specific month for the migration, you will need to fill in a form, and I've added a link to the form, and that needs to be completed and submitted by October the 15th. However, Google does want to emphasize that this is a best effort basis, so it's not going to be guaranteed that your migration will happen at a specific time, but Google will do their best to accommodate you. You can also find more details about the upgrade, including FAQs, and there is a link to that within our document. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to your Google contacts. Or better yet, reach out to us. Let us know. Get in contact with us. All of our contact details are available at the top of the documents that you'll find in our podcast description. So if you do have any questions or queries, by all means, please do come to us. For the end users getting started, though, you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about using spaces, how to organize a space, and managing a space with inline threading. And there are links in our documents to all of that.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Adam. Yep, getting that plug in there. I've trained you well, so that's good. No, we always like to hear from our listeners. And please, somebody leave us a review or something. Please, somebody put some comments on there. We're feeling very lonely just talking out to you all here. Eric will come back and leave us another comment or something like that. No, that's wonderful, Adam. Thank you. And thank you for getting through all of that as well. There's a lot of information in there about those Google Chat updates. And Google Chat has been spoilt this week. I don't think we'll see any chat updates for a while, because that team's everything's been sport with updates now. So
Yeah, right. And also, just to clarify that this update does impact all Google Workspace customers as well. So it's basically everyone that has access to Google Chat, which is everyone.
lovely. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Right, well, that's it, everybody. That is everything that you need to know about all the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available from wherever you cast your pods and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7. Thank you very much for joining us this week.
And we'll be back again next week with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye!